These are some of the most treasured, rarest, and expensive Famicom cartridges out there, and I want to spend the next 10 minutes talking to you about my connection to each one of them. I'm your man out of Japan, Jay Contra, and if you'd like to see exclusive videos about Japanese retro game collecting, you can head over to my Patreon. I think I actually have a story behind each one of these games. Let me think about it. Actually, well, I can't remember where I got these two Contra cartridges. Probably somewhere in the Fukuoka area, but you know, this is the OG Contra. In Japan, it's actually really expensive. It's like 50 or 60 bucks still. I know the price really went down for the American copies, but for some reason, the Japanese cartridge is still really sought after. I do love the artwork. The gameplay is still impeccable, but you might be better off buying the American version simply because it's going to be a lot cheaper. And then both of these actually, someone wrote their name on the cartridge. It happened in Japan too. It drives me nuts. But I'm also, it doesn't like, this isn't $50 worth it to me to have to go and to buy another one of these. But, you know, and especially in the box, these things are like $200, $300. But love the original Contra. Also love Super C. Super Contra is still an amazing game. Is it better than the original Contra? Probably. I would love to put these head to head, but just look at that original artwork. It is so good. Like just the Contra series, the first like 4 or 5 were really good. It did kind of like fall off, especially in the PlayStation PS2 era. And then Matsuoka, I will find you. Who did this? A person did this. Still, great games. Let's see, Metal Storm. Where did I get Metal Storm? Oh yes, I bought this at the Mandarake in Akihabara, which I can recommend. Once we're allowed back in Japan, the Mandarake is there. They have the best cartridge prices that you will see. And I remember getting this for like less than $100. It was a really good deal. And I couldn't really see anything wrong with it. You might notice some browning here because I think that's the adhesive. That's just going to be inevitable with a lot of these things because, you know, the label's glued to the cartridge. But look at that mobile suit design. Oh, Metal Storm is really fun. It's short. It's a bit short for my tastes. I think it's only like 5 or 6 levels. It's really cool. I think it is a late release. It's like 1991. Yeah, so this is coming out for the Famicom well after the Super Nintendo's been released in Japan. But just being able to flip your character from like the bottom to the top of the screen is like, I know there are other games that do it now, like indie games that do it now. This was doing it 30 years ago. Oh my God, incredible. Crisis Force, this I picked up at a hard off in Saga Prefecture where I used to live in Japan. It's a little roughed up. This has actually become also weirdly expensive. This is like $80, $90 now just for the cartridge. It is, I think, one of the most playable vertically scrolling shooters because I think you can like get hit multiple times. It's not like when you get hit once and you die. I think it's like when you get hit once, you like lose your power-ups and then you can get hit one more time or you've got like a life bar. I played this a couple years ago. It is still really good. It's a Konami vertically scrolling shooter. I don't think Konami even makes vertically scrolling shooters that much, but Crisis Force, they nailed it. They got it done. It's so good. Next, we've got, Battletoads. Japan does indeed have Battletoads. The thing about Battletoads in Japan is that it's actually a lot more playable than the American version or the British version simply because those versions were so hard that when they were localizing it for the Japanese market, they basically were just like, it's too hard, we'll just make it easier so that you get more lives. I actually didn't find playing the Japanese version that much of a challenge, except for when you get to like the pipe level, when you're in like a sewer or something. That part was really hard, and I'm like, no, I can't do this, I'm out. But Battletoads is really fun up until that point. Oh yeah, and what's really great is if you want deals on Japanese games, if you can find like really messed up backs of cartridges, like look at this. This should be like pure white, but it's just, you know, with age and with people, you know, this is probably the part when you think about it, when you're grabbing onto the cartridge to get it out of the game or to get it out of the console, you're going to be touching this. It's probably absorbing like finger oils. This is actually a big deal to some shops. So that means this would be sold, and actually I think that's why I found it so cheap. I found this at the Mandarake in Nakano Broadway. I found it for like $50. This can be upwards of like $100, $150 in Japan. But because it's got this messed up back label, I think that's why they discounted it. But I only really care about the front label, and even then, I don't care that much about condition anyways. Especially when you've been used to the condition of games in the United States. Now, Castlevania III is not that expensive of a game. It's like $30 when it's loose like this, but it is so good. I think this is the best Castlevania that was released for the NES/Famicom. You've got the multiple characters, there's the music. I would highly recommend getting the Famicom version of Castlevania 3 because the music is so good, and it is actually better. They have some kind of chip on this game that they do not have in the American release, and that gives you a couple of extra sound channels. However, on the on the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, I believe you are able to play the Japanese versions of the Castlevania games that they have on that, and I would highly recommend playing the Japanese version of Castlevania 3, because I don't even think there's any text in the game, or if there is, it's not that big of a deal. Play it and enjoy the extra sound quality. So putting that over here, let's try and populate the screen. Let's make it look great. We've still got these 4 games to talk about down here. Let's talk about Gunnak. So Gunnak for the Famicom is relatively cheap when you compare it to like the American version, which is like what, $200 plus today. I actually don't know the exact price. I just know it's in the triple digits. Gunnak in Japan is like $40, probably less these days. I found this at a shop called Ojamakan in Kyoto. That's a great place. I can highly recommend if you're in the Kansai area. They will have games like Gunnak, which is just a really fun shooter that came out for the Famicom. Oh, and then, it's a little bit different actually. Yeah, so sometimes, let's see here. So when you look at the backs of these games, this is a pretty standard back to the cartridge where it's just telling you like, be careful of electric shocks, don't get any water on this or you're gonna damage it. On this one, it actually just spells it out it doesn't spell it out literally. It's showing you pictures of, let's see, don't stare at the TV screen too close, even though I think doctors have said that actually that doesn't, it's looking at bright images at night, I think doesn't affect your sight. I don't know about if you're close to the TV screen. I don't know if that actually hurts your vision or not. Don't wash out your cartridge from the tap. Okay, kids are dumb. They probably wouldn't understand that. And also, don't try and pry open the cartridge. There is actually something, so that we can talk about is something, it's very difficult to open these cartridges because there is no screw or bolt or anything. There are YouTube videos where people will get these like giant pliers and you have to sort of like squeeze the cartridge because there are little tabs. These are supposed to come apart actually. You can see it from the seam here. There is some way where if you squeeze either the back or the front, I can't remember which it is, but if you squeeze it using a caliper or something, you can actually pry these apart safely. I've not done it myself. I don't know if I'd recommend it unless you are trained in opening Famicom cartridges, which is really unfortunate because these do get counterfeited quite often, and so the only way you're going to be able to know is if you can actually physically open it up, but that's very difficult. Next we have, let's talk about, you may not recognize this, but this is Little Samson for the Famicom. It is extraordinarily cheap in Japan when you compare it to the American version, and by cheap, I mean it is merely $100 to $200 depending on condition, as opposed to America where Little Samson is still over $1,000. And I don't think it even has any text that you have to read in the game, so why not just buy the Japanese version? It's going to save you possibly $1,000 depending on condition. It's really fun. It's actually it's really good. I think 1992 by Taito. It's really fun. It's got really cool platforming. It actually kind of like reminds me of Mega Man. I don't know if the people who worked on Mega Man ended up going over to Little Samson. I'm not sure about that, but it's fun. It's very fun. Is it $1,000 fun? I don't know about that. Is it $100 fun? It's good. I don't know. And then here we get Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers 2. A phenomenal game. I picked this up at Super Potato in Osaka is one of the few games that I've ever bought from Super Potato, simply because I saw it was like $30 or $40 at the time, and I think in America it's like a $200 game. It's good. I don't know if it's $200 good, but still highly playable even today. Just some great action platforming. Some of the best in class. Like that's like when you like look at like Metal Storm. These are, let's see, we got our shooters, but we're gonna round off this video with the original Castlevania. This is the cartridge version. This was released in 1993, 3 years after the Super Famicom had come out in Japan. But for some reason, Konami decided that they had originally released the first Castlevania on the Famicom disk system back in 1986. And that version, while still somewhat playable today, I wouldn't recommend doing it simply because every time you have to load something in a disk system game, you're taking the chance that the belt drive is going to fall off, slip off, and you're going to wreck your system. Much more convenient to have the cartridge. However, you might want to get the American version simply because the Japanese version is worth $100 now. Complete in box is like $400 or $500 for this game. I bought it simply because I love Castlevania. I had a lot of fun playing it when I did on the Famicom Mini, and then when I was able to play the original version, it was so good. Highly recommend playing the original Castlevania in whatever form you possibly can. So these are my rarest / most treasured games that I have for the Famicom. This is going to complete the series that I've been doing on the cartridges. I have a tub full of boxes that we're going to go through next. I hope you have enjoyed the series so far. Please tell me what you think in the comments and tell me what systems you may even want me to cover in the future. I have been your man out of Japan, Jay Contra. Thanks for watching and mahalo.